The night watchmen thought they were survivors who came to seek refuge, so they stepped forward to ask, "Where did you come from? Do you need our help?" As a result, when they got closer, they found that the situation was obviously wrong. The purple skin and empty eyes, as well as the terrible wounds on the body, were obviously not living people. "Ah, weird monster!" The Night Watch soldiers screamed in fear. At this time, the zombies also took action. Where there is fire, there are living people, and the zombies are like moths flying into the fire. But this time they are not destroying themselves, but bringing death to the unprepared living people in the camp. The Night Watch soldiers rushed to attack. Gunshots rang out. But these zombies are not afraid of these weapons at all. Even if their heads are beaten into sieves, they can still pounce on and bite living people. "Save me! Save me!" Shrill screams came one after another, ringing in every corner around the camp, extremely creepy. This sound echoed around the entire Baishu camp, finally alarming everyone. But when they realized the enemy attack, those fearless guards could hardly cause any harm to the zombies. The believers of Baishu cannot fear death for their faith. But these zombies are not only not afraid of death, but also extremely difficult to kill. They even have attack power far higher than ordinary people. After all, without the limitation of the brain, they can release their physical strength at will. In the darkness, the dense army of zombies surrounded the entire Baishu camp and launched a terrifying attack. Soon, hundreds of believers were bitten to death by zombies. Some guards realized that this was the legendary zombie and aimed their guns at their heads in fear. However, this attack could not hinder its footsteps at all. Instead, because the sound was too loud, it attracted more zombies, threw him to the ground, and tore him to pieces alive. A large number of believers also gathered inside the church, especially the core of the snow worship cult was here. The zombies who smelled the smell of living people were like sharks that smelled blood. Their eyes were red, and they wanted to rush in and eat people. At this time, the door of the church suddenly opened. An invisible huge force rushed over and knocked dozens of zombies in front of them away. The high priest Zhang walked out of the church, and behind him there were more than a dozen mutants. The tragic scene in front of them made everyone's pupils shrink. Facing such an unknown thing, no one was not shocked. Zombies, this kind of thing was originally only seen in movies and TV dramas in peacetime. Now it actually appears next to me. How can people stay calm? A trace of fluctuation flashed in Zhang Yixian's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure and began to command everyone to counterattack. Tongjian, Gonglei, you guys stay inside the church and are not allowed to come out under any circumstances. Protect the leader and the believers. Others, follow me to kill these zombies. Under the leadership of Zhang Yixian, the snow worship cult finally began to restore some order and launched a counterattack against the zombie group. With the addition of these powerful mutants, the situation was finally reversed. The believers who were originally dizzy also regained their sanity and began to pick up all the weapons at hand to fight back. More than a dozen cold lights flashed in the air. Immediately, more than a dozen zombie heads fell to the ground. Han Chang activated his beast form, which was a small animal with a line of white hair from the head to the back, fangs and claws. Han Chang's beast form is a honey badger, also known as the legendary flat-headed brother. He cut off the heads of more than a dozen zombies according to the common sense he learned from TV and thought that was the end. But he didn't expect that the zombies just staggered for a while, moved a little slowly, but still rushed towards him. Huh? They're not dead yet? Han Chang was shocked, but as a flat-headed brother, he was not afraid of anything. Then I'll destroy you completely. Soon, a cold light flashed around him, and all the zombies were cut into 7 pieces. 8 pieces fell to the ground with a clatter, still wriggling. How disgusting! What the hell is this? Han Chang looked disgusted. The attack power of these zombies is stronger than that of ordinary people, but it is far from enough for a mutant like him. But they can't be killed in one blow, and with such a large number, if they are really surrounded, the mutant will have to explain. It was a hard battle that lasted for more than half an hour. The ground was covered with blood and flesh, leaving countless corpses. How many of them were zombies and how many were snow worship followers, no one knew. Only when the zombies slowly retreated from the darkness did everyone breathe a sigh of relief. However, the fear was tightly entangled in their hearts and was difficult to dissipate. What on earth are those things? Han Chang put his hands in his pockets, looking at the hellish scene of blood and flesh flying around him, his face full of depression. He heard the cries of the believers. In this battle, I don't know how many people died and how many people lost their families. When they came here, they all thought that the snow worship cult could protect them and was a utopia in the end of the world. Han Chang's heart was aching, and he walked to Zhang Yixian with an unhappy face. At this time, the mutants gathered together. After fighting for so long, everyone was very tired. Zhang Yixian's face was still like an iceberg for thousands of years, and he directed the survivors to clean up the battlefield in an orderly manner. Move all the bodies to the abandoned building. Also check if there are any injured people. These zombies are too weird. They may be some kind of biochemical virus. They must be separated and observed for a while and don't come into contact with other people. Also, strengthen vigilance at night and organize strong adult men to patrol around the camp. The zombie group may not come back. Although the others were tired, they also understood that it was not time to relax, so they took the order and acted. Han Chang walked up to Zhang Yixian and said with a frown, "These things are too outrageous. They can't be killed, and they know how to retreat. This is definitely not the brainless zombies on TV." Zhang Yixian glanced at Han Chang and frowned. "We must investigate this matter carefully. Otherwise, with such a huge population density of our snow worship sect, we will definitely be attacked again in the future. I just don't know if this matter is related to other forces." Han Chang's face was full of depression, and he gritted his teeth and said viciously, "If it was really done by those bastards, I will definitely not let them go." Nowadays, the strength of the snow worship sect has expanded many times. The number of believers and the number of mutants have increased greatly, and they will no longer be afraid of a certain Al-Qaeda organization. Han Chang also longed to find an opportunity to destroy the forces that bullied them before. But Zhang Yixian patted him on the shoulder. "Calm down first. This is just my guess. What matters now is to protect the remaining people." Han Chang lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then slowly nodded and said, "You're right." He turned and left to help others deal with post-war affairs. Zhang Yixian stood in the center of the battlefield, looking into the distance. In the darkness, he didn't know if there were still powerful enemies lurking in the dark, and his eyes were a little solemn and deep. Is another new storm about to appear? The next day, the uneasy forces began to contact each other. Zhang Yi called his old classmate Xing Tian to inquire about the situation. "What? You guys were attacked by zombies too? Damn, we also encountered them yesterday and more than 100 of us died. Where did these damn things come from? Isn't it a biochemical crisis?" Zhang Yi felt more at ease when he heard that the Qingpei base was also attacked by zombies. At least it can be confirmed that this was not an attack launched against them. No one can say for sure about this matter. Those zombies are very strange. They can't be killed even if their heads are chopped off, and it seems that someone is controlling them behind the scenes. Zhang Yi frowned and said with some doubts, "However, after hearing what you said, I feel that the problem is a bit troublesome. There is a distance of more than 100 kilometers between our two families, but we were both attacked by zombies. If there is really someone who can secretly command the zombies, it must be more than just one person." Xing Tian frowned deeply and pinched his eyebrows hard. "You mean there is still a terrible force in Tianhai City that can control the zombies? But if that's the case, wouldn't that force be invincible? More than 10 million people died in Tianhai City. We were killed just by the corpses. Take your shelter, for example. No matter how strong it is, it can't withstand people smashing it every day." What Xing Tian said was exactly what Zhang Yi was worried about. Unknown enemies are always the most terrifying, and Zhang Yi knew nothing about those zombies and the possible controllers behind them. Let's take it one step at a time. In addition, contact several other families to see if they have encountered the same situation. In fact, Zhang Yi and Xing Tian didn't need to take the initiative. The other three families had the same idea. They even suspected that the zombie tide was controlled by other forces. After exchanging information with each other, they learned that everyone had encountered the same situation. Considering that if someone could really control such a large-scale zombie tide, the situation of the five-army battle would not be like that. Everyone reached a consensus. This zombie tide that spread throughout Tianhai City was definitely caused by the sixth force that existed underground. It is definitely not a simple biochemical crisis. After confirming that this matter is not led by any of the five families, everyone can only rely on themselves. After all, the relationship between the five families is not a partnership, and there are even many hatreds. Even if they cooperate, it doesn't make much sense. However, just the next day, the zombie tide appeared outside the shelter again. Zhang Yi sighed, "Let's go!" He, Uncle Yu, Fatty Shu, and a few others put on combat uniforms and left the shelter to prepare for the battle. Flour was also brought along this time. However, Zhang Yi repeatedly warned them not to bite the zombies with their mouths to avoid poisoning and infection. Flour nodded very humanely. The four people and one beast left the shelter and began to clean up this wave of zombies. With the experience from the last time, Uncle Yu and Liang Yue did not rush in impulsively this time. Liang Yue and Flour were responsible for cleaning up the approaching zombies. Fatty Shu used ice and snow to restrict the zombies' movements. Zhang Yi and Uncle Yu used flamethrowers to attack the zombies. Blow snow! Fatty Shu raised his hands high, and a large ice and snowstorm covered thousands of zombies in an instant. Although there was no substantial damage, the coverage area was huge. Uncle Yu has been holding a flamethrower and started to grill at a constant temperature. The more than 10-meter-long fire dragon covered a group of zombies and quickly turned them into Zibo barbecue skewers. Zhang Yi came to the side and grilled Uncle Yu in a cross-shaped manner. The effect of this interweaving of firepower was very obvious, and soon a raging fire was set off in the zombie group. After being burned by the flames, the zombies let out strange cries in their throats and quickly lost their ability to move. Behind the glass of the shelter, Jo Care held a notebook in her hand and carefully recorded it. "It looks like what I guessed. The zombies have viruses that like cold and fear heat. After being burned by high temperatures, they will lose their activity and lose their ability to move." Today, this wave of zombies began to retreat after losing half of them. Zhang Yi and his men took advantage of the victory to pursue them, but the zombies' escape routes were very clever, and they fled in all directions in a scattered manner. In addition, their speed was extremely fast, so even if they were caught up and killed hundreds of them, many would still be able to escape. Therefore, today was a repeat of yesterday's results, killing a group and letting a group escape. I always feel that something is not right. Zhang Yi frowned, and a very uneasy feeling slowly emerged in his heart. Although it didn't take much effort to solve the zombie tide today, we eliminated more than half of yesterday's corpse group. But in the zombie wave that came today, the number of zombies was only a lot more than yesterday. But every time, some zombies would escape. Fatty Shu said, "This shows that the zombie virus spreads very quickly, and those who may die have turned into zombies among them." There was something very subtle, but he didn't understand it. Zhang Yi said, "Let's go back first and explain the situation of zombies to everyone." After Zhang Yi and his companions returned to the shelter, they sat in the living room to rest. However, although he successfully repelled the zombie tide this time, Zhang Yi's face did not show any relief. Instead, a cloud of doubt shrouded his heart, making him look worried. Such an expression made Fatty Shu, who was laughing and bragging with Uncle Yu, feel strange. "Boss, why don't you look very happy?" Everyone noticed that Zhang Yi's expression was wrong, and they all cast concerned glances at him. "Yeah, what are you thinking about? You look so serious. If you have any questions, we can discuss them together." Zhang Yi looked up at everyone, took a deep breath, and explained. "We killed more than half of the zombies yesterday, but the zombies that came today are much more than yesterday. This shows that the zombie virus spreads very quickly, and it is possible that those who died have become zombies. If this is the case, sooner or later the entire Tianhai city will be completely occupied by zombies. I can't imagine how we will live at that time." Zhang Yi's words made everyone's smile disappear. Everyone lowered their heads to think, and their faces also showed worried expressions. Yang Xinxin sat in a wheelchair, took a sip of cappuccino slowly, and then said, "But at present this tendency is not obvious. Otherwise, the other party would not mobilize thousands of zombies to attack us every time." However, she changed the subject. Her expression was unusually serious. "If we can't figure out the truth about the appearance of this group of zombies, they will definitely become a huge trouble in the future." Lu Karen sighed. "It would be great if it were summer. All the zombies would rot and turn into skeletons." Zhang Yi said, "The most terrifying thing is not their number, but that they seem to have controllers, so they are not brainless monsters. Plus, they are difficult to kill and can only be burned or dismembered. This adds to the trouble of dealing with them." Yang Xinxin said, "Then the most important thing is to deal with the controllers behind them?" Zhang Yi smiled. "It's easy to say. Where can we find them? Every time we kill them halfway, they slip away. I can't even tell if there is a controller among the zombies. After all, superpowers..." Zhang Yi spread his hands. "It's full of uncertainty, and it's difficult for anyone to infer it with common sense. It's even more impossible for them to easily go deep into the subway to investigate, because there must be more zombies hiding there. Even though their combat power is extremely strong, Zhang Yi will not leave the protection of the shelter unless necessary." Just as everyone was talking about it, Zhou Ke, who was standing behind Zhang Yi, spoke softly. "Actually, I have a guess." Zhang Yi subconsciously tilted his neck and tried to look back, but his sight was blocked by two curves, and he didn't see Zhou Ke's face. Zhang Yi motioned Zhou Ke to continue. Usually, as a doctor, Zhou Ke didn't directly participate in the battle plan, but this time, her professionalism as a doctor was reflected. She knew more about viruses than anyone in the shelter, so her speech was very valuable for reference. Zhou Ke was encouraged by Zhang Yi and said, "I have studied the bodies of zombies these 2 days and indeed found a very strange virus-like thing. It can withstand extreme cold and can even survive at -100 degrees Celsius. It can also invade the nerves of organisms and control the body. But," Zhou Ke frowned slightly, "it doesn't meet the definition of viruses in modern biology. Its structure should be between viruses and cells, more like cells, but it can invade the host's body like viruses to control and reproduce." Zhang Yi, as a poor student who threw away his knowledge after graduation, was confused. "Ke, can you explain it more simply?" There were only a handful of people in this house who could understand what Zhou Ke said. At least the 3 men were confused. Zhou Ke smiled shyly. "After the apocalypse, biology was redefined by the influence of gamma rays. Let's call it a zombie virus for now. In simple terms, it reflects the habits of some bacterial colonies or even social animals. When zombies are in a group of corpses, their actions are consistent and even reflect a certain degree of wisdom. But the corpses studied in the laboratory have weakened their reproductive instincts, and their stress resistance is also getting worse. So I suspect that the control method of this virus may be similar to that of biological populations. The mother body with the virus can remotely control them in some way." Zhang Yi sat up straight on the sofa. "Remote control?" Zhou Ke waved her hand quickly. "Of course, it's not a very long distance. For example, animals can convey information through smell, and this mutated virus must have its own way of conveying information." Zhang Yi said, "You mean as long as the mother is killed, these infected zombies will also die?"